Josh Robbins with Beachwood Marketing.
Thank you for joining the program today. And one of the reasons we're having you on is to talk about NAPE, the big oil and gas conference happening in Houston. I understand about 12,000 people went this year, and you were one of the attendees. Is that right?
I was.
How'd it go?
It was good. It was good. Definitely every bit of 12,000 were there. So,
the downturn is not really the word they're using this year, but, it's not the gangbusters days of old type thing, but it's not the downturn years either. So, good to see 12,000 people. How interactive was it this year? Were people going through the motions, or were there people, actively doing business, or people trying to get business? Talk to me about a little bit of the vibes and the themes that you saw on either the floor or any of the places you went.
Sure. So there was a lot of people out there hustling. There was a lot of people, the booths for the most part over the last couple of years haven't taken up the whole convention center. They've cut it in half, in 15, 16. There wasn't a whole lot of booths. This year, it ran the whole length of the floor. So it was considerably longer than years past as far as, folks out there trying to peddle deals. The mood, and this is kind of a universal statement, it's just overwhelmingly optimistic. There's so many people down there, and like you said, it's not a downturn year. It's not a boom year, but everyone's just very optimistic about what the future is going to hold.
It's one of those tricky years, to where you have to really reinvent yourself, or maybe have some pretty good, storage capacity, or good clients, stable clients, whatever it is. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of growth, if that makes sense, in the traditional areas, because a lot of the oil and gas companies, they're still going through a lot of their changes. They're getting a lot of the artificial intelligence put in. They're revamping their workforce, so to speak, whether it be from the engineering side or whether it be from the hydraulic fracturing remote side. There's just a lot of change going on in the industry. So I found that word hustling interesting, that, people are hustling out there, because that was what I kind of thought too, is that there's so much innovation and so much reinvention of people's business plans going on. Hustling is just a great way to describe it. Am I making any sense, or is it, you were there? Okay, so then I do have at least I am listening to some of my interview people, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, the big thing down in NAPE this year, in my opinion, was there's a whole lot more tech that was highlighted. Usually it's Drilling Info as the tech company, and then everyone else is peddling deals. But there was a significant amount of folks down there that were really focused on developing tech and the changing oil field to get automated. And there's so many processes that we still do in oil and gas that are still paper and pencil, that just need to be automated. And we're, for the most part, 10 years behind the curve when it comes to tech. So it was good to see.
Josh Robbins, Beachwood Marketing. And so, do you specialize in oil and gas, or do you guys have clients outside of oil and gas and you just happen to be there? Talk to me about Beachwood Marketing.
Yeah, no, we are oil and gas specific, oil and gas space. We partner with oil and gas companies that are looking to expand their footprint wherever they are, on the buy side of A&D. So we've got a team here in Oklahoma City. We make about 4,000 calls a month to oil and gas operators from California to Pennsylvania, North Dakota, all the way down the Gulf, cover the whole country, and track down deals that aren't on the market. So we get a box from our clients that says, hey, we'd love to buy, this type of asset in this area. And then we go to work. We hustle for sure, and go find it. That's what we do.
When you say you go find it, are you looking for in deals? Is it anything from leases to, hydraulic fracturing equipment, or what exactly, I guess, is it you guys specialize in, or is it the gamut of things?
No. So we primarily focus on finding operated properties to go buy.
Okay.
We go in and try to find actual wells, oil, gas. We work operated space, non-op space. We play a little bit in the mineral market. However, it's there's a lot more folks in the mineral market than there are anywhere else. So we tend to, like I said, partner up with operators that are looking to increase the amount of barrels they have coming out of the ground, or acreage to go drill, or whatever the box may be.
So who would be your customer? Is it the oil and gas companies, or is it the midstream companies, or both?
So it is right now. It's the oil and gas companies. A couple of midstream companies have reached out because finding deals in this environment, as positive and as upbeat as NAPE was, a lot of it's it's not the types of deals that people are looking for. If you want a PDP producing asset, if you want 250 barrels a day, if you want operations at 80% net, that wasn't there. I mean, those deals aren't on the floor. And so what we're doing is calling the guys that own those assets and say, hey, I know you're not selling, you should. This is the time to do it. And so that's how we're uncovering a lot of the deals and helping our clients expand their current portfolio.
So if you talk to that many people over the course of a day, a week, month, whatever the case might be, is there a general universal theme to the industry right now, or is there certain areas that are seeing more growth than others? I know the Permian and the Bakken are the big ones, but there's the Haynesville and the Eagle Ford, of course, California, Marcellus, Niobrara. There's all kinds of different shale plays. They might not get as much attention in the media. So just, are you seeing that some of your clients are at least active in these other plays? Are you hearing anything from those other plays?
Yeah, absolutely. And even in the Permian and the Bakken, there's always a caveat. Permian's a great place to own, except it's expensive. It's a great place to own, except there's a differential. There's a lot of pieces that are playing a part in pushing people out to, let's go play in the Eagle Ford, let's go play in the Chalk, let's go play in Kansas, in conventional assets, in low LOE, in barrels coming out of the ground. The general theme industry wide, as far as our phone calls are concerned, is upside's not something that is being paid for. We're going to go out there and do the work, so we want to get paid from the upside. We don't want to pay the seller on the upside because we have to go do it. But if you as a seller go out there and drill a hole in the ground and make the barrels come out, we will absolutely pay you more for that. And that's kind of the general theme.
Okay. And Beachwood Marketing, how far along in the marketing do you guys get? Because one of the questions I was going to ask, if with all the people hustling out there, how do you set yourself apart? Because that's really where people are at right now, is they're trying to figure out new ways to set themselves apart by showing these people that, hey, we've reinvented our company to X, Y, Z, or we can solve your problem that you have here, that sort of thing. Do you got any advice on that, or do you guys have any secrets or any tactics that you seem to think that works, that either you guys stand out or you've seen other people in the industry that are able to stand out? Because I've noticed what you have too. There's a lot of people hustling, and I'm trying to figure out if they're moving ahead or if they're just spinning their wheels.
Right. Yeah, and there's a definitive difference between the people that are moving ahead and spinning the wheels. And really, I say it all the time, there are people out there that want to sell something so that they can go to Fiji for the rest of the year and not do anything. And in order to do that, you need to make the most of whatever it is that you're selling fall into your lap. So as an industry as a whole, we've allowed that to happen in the past. And with automated processes and software and the knowledge base of what you can go find right now on your cell phone, it's not easy anymore. There's no easy money. You have to go out there and actually work, and you've got to be here in 2015 when it's 26 a barrel. You got to be here in 2017 when it's 70 a barrel. You've got to be here when it's down, up. I mean, you build these relationships and you put in all this work. That'll be the dividend, regardless of what kind of work that you're doing or what industry you're in. If you're constantly out there building relationships and relationship selling, you're going to win. People don't go to Chick-fil-A because the chicken's better. They go to Chick-fil-A because they work on relationships. They say please, they say thank you. You feel like you've got a relationship at that restaurant. They're successful. That's going to work for everyone. And if you don't do that, especially with 25-year-olds that are coming into the workforce, if you're not going to do that, then you're not going to have that business.
You know, the one guy, he once said to me, Patrick Hughes, that's who it was. Patrick Hughes, the CEO of Prairie Companies, made a comment about, you work really hard to break even during the downtime so that you can make a good living during the good times.
That's
and
exactly right.
That is the oil and gas industry. It really is.
Exactly
And you know
right.
what? They've had decades of down. Remember the 90s? The 90s was a low decade of oil prices. I mean, people forget that the 1990s was primarily low oil prices, and everybody got along just fine, and things happened.
Yep.
And I did want to ask you about the industry itself, because you mentioned the 25-year-olds, and there was a big push for millennials. And like most things, anytime there's a big push, there's unintended consequences that come from it and growing pains, and you start to learn a certain number of things. And one of the things that came out of this is a lot of the millennials today have seemed to come into the workforce with more of a social cause than in the past. And that's really caused a little bit of some hesitation in the oil and gas industry, because there's such a industry built on respect of the industry, or it's such an industry built on respect and understanding of how the business works. And when you've got some people coming in with either some blind faith or some social causes behind them, there's a little bit of hesitation there that they might disrupt that, call it a chemistry set of respect and balance and just the business of making the oil and gas industry work. Because for an industry that pays more taxes than anyone, they probably donate more than anybody to the local communities. And that's what I mean, to where all of a sudden now, if we got people coming in that are just going to overlook that and start being a bull in a china shop, some of the people retiring are a little bit worried about that. And when you've got nearly 50% of the industry retiring in the next 5 years, that's kind of one of those untold stories going on in the industry. Are you hearing that with your clients at all, or that there's, this kind of, we got to make sure we're passing the baton off correctly to the next generation?
There is, but to be honest with you, the guys that I'm working with are late 20s and early 30s, whether they're private equity guys or they're oil and gas companies, or they're C-suite execs in all aspects of the business. And there are people out there that put the work in and do the job and know the business. And then there's people that don't, and they talk. And I think there's a lot more emphasis put on the people that talk than the people that do. And I don't think there's going to be this massive social shift in oil and gas, because you need the people that are out there that know. You've got to have that knowledge transfer take place, and I think there's enough. I think there's enough drive with this new generation to either learn that skill or figure out a way to replace the need for that skill. Why do we have pens in the pumper trucks? We don't need them. Get this app, whatever it is, whatever that ingenuity is. This business has always been first and foremost to push ingenuity. It's just, how is that going to look in the next 10 years? It's going to look surprisingly different than it has the last 100.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Well, they're not slinging chains anymore.
Right.
Not at all. A lot of those
That's exactly
guys.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I've just noticed there's been quite a vetting process going in a lot of different ways with, like I said, a lot of the industry is retiring right now. And with the advancements of technology, it's like, could you imagine like just the first 5 years after automobiles came out? Yep. Yeah. I mean, the whole social conversation of safety must have been unbelievable back then when we went from horses to automobiles, because that's how I feel like right now. The technology advanced so quickly and so fast in the oil and gas industry. Well, I've got guys like John Gibson, the former chairman of One Oak, and Harold Hamm, and not to name drop, but these are guys that run major companies. When they're telling me they're changing their business plan because of hydraulic fracturing and just technology, that tells you that's a pretty big shift. I mean, from my perspective in the media, we saw that with the internet. When the internet came, that made us change our entire business model. We had to. Yeah, yep. I mean, and in fact, I would even argue the internet was the worst investment any media company ever made, because nobody's made their money back.
That's right.
So was the idea to go out of business, because a lot of people did that, me included, back in my former media life. Yeah, we'll put a couple $100,000 in the internet without any plan on how to make the money back. But we all did it. But that's kind of what's going on in oil and gas. They had to, in order to stay competitive, they had to move ahead with it. And luckily, they were sophisticated enough to figure out a way to make it work.
And I think that's what you're going to see. I think, media companies, for the most part, I think you're absolutely right. But, content's king. You still have to be able to write good content. You still have to have good shows in order to make it work. And so I think that's going to be what's happening in oil and gas. There's going to be, yes, is 50% going to retire in the next 5 years? Absolutely. Are they going to stop working? Absolutely not. I think you're going to see 100 times the amount of entrepreneurial business startups that are consultancy based. That knowledge is going to have to stay in the business, and everyone's going to know it. If you can use yourself and your knowledge to go make money, people are going to do it all day long. And I think this, especially now in 2019, when entrepreneurialism is at an all-time high, as far as, you don't have to go to work. You've got a cell phone. You can you got a Starbucks. You can go sit down, pull up your laptop, and you can get things done. And I think that's gonna shake up a lot of things.
Josh Robbins, Beachwood Marketing. Well, kind of wrapping up here a little bit. We talked about the NAPE. Not the NAPE. We talked about NAPE down in Houston, Texas, some of the oil and gas as big tech highlighted this year, and optimism down there, as well as just some of the ways to stand out and some of the changes that are going on in business. Is there anything that we left out, anything that you want to reiterate, anything that we didn't even bring up that you want to make sure gets mentioned? I like to give guests kind of the final word. That way the question isn't framed by me. So the floor is yours if you'd like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, as always, I mean, if you're an oil and gas company or a midstream company that wants to track down deals, you went to NAPE or you didn't go to NAPE because you're trying to hustle it up, make something happen, and you can't find it, there's a reason. A lot of the deals that happen don't happen on a sales floor. They don't happen on a convention floor. They happen over coffee. They happen, off market, and that's where we live. We always say at Beachwood, coffee's for closers. We're always drinking coffee over here. So.
All right. Little Glengarry Glen Ross. Yeah, baby. Love that. All right.